these are always difficult cases. These are always serious cases. And there's nothing more serious than murder in our laws in this state. And His Honor told you, and I said it to you in my opening statement, every defendant who comes into this court, I don't care what the charge is, whether it's shoplifting, whether it's larceny, whether it's stealing a car, it doesn't matter. That person is presumed innocent. Innocent not because I say so, not because His Honor says so. Well, yeah, because His Honor says so, because he's telling you what the law is. That's just the law. And that's the law for all of us. They don't pick and choose whether you're rich or poor, black or white, or old or young, in deciding whether or not you're entitled to that. You're entitled to it no matter who you are. That then places the burden of proof upon the state of South Carolina. And see, the reason for that is this. It'd be almost impossible for a defendant or a person to come into court and prove themselves innocent. I'll give you an example. Let's say I'm home by myself, me and my dog, watching TV. 3 o'clock in the morning. Knock comes on the door. Ralph Wilson, we heard you just robbed Conway National Bank. We got 2 witnesses say you robbed Conway National Bank. How am I going to prove I didn't do it? That I was home in Conway or Georgetown or where I am by myself? How am I going to prove it? That's why the law is built the way it is. Because I could never prove that. So the state now has to come up with evidence. And not just somebody saying it. The proof has to rise to beyond a reasonable doubt. That's greater than a preponderance of the evidence. You see, the state gets to decide who they're going to indict. They don't come up and ask the defendant, can we indict you? Doesn't work that way. They indict you, they arrest you, they put you in jail. Go in front of a court, you get a bond, if you're lucky, and if you're not, you stay in jail until your trial. That's the system. As I said to you at the outset, that's not a perfect system, but it's the only system I know, and it's the best one that I know of, so until something better comes along, we have to live with this, with all of its imperfections. So let's talk for a minute about this trial. Let's talk about what we know and what we don't know. 2 things that don't lie. 2 things. Numbers will not lie. They're going to remain the same. I don't care how you count them, how you mix them up, what you add them up, how you divide them. They're going to be what they are. Distance doesn't change. I don't care what measurement you use, it's going to be the same. If it's a mile, it's a mile, it's a mile. If it's an hour, it's an hour, it's an hour. Doesn't change. But you can count on those 2 things. But you say, well, why is that important? That's what we're going to talk about. Well, first, before I talk about the time issue, let's address what happened this night. Remember, the first thing, or one of the first things you heard in this case was a 911 call. The 911 call. The 911 call is important for several reasons. Okay? 1, we know what time it came in. We know the exact time that that 911 call was made, 9:13. There ain't no question about it. That's what time that call came. What we also know from the 911 call is what initially was said happened. You see, when people are excited, they will usually tell the truth about what is happening. But what happens is, over time, you get to embellish or change your story as you understand the facts better. Listen to the 911 call. Remember, one of the things that's said, and listen, this is a 9-year-old kid. I understand that. Not trying to hold him to the same standards that I would hold an adult to. But I'm just trying to show you inconsistencies here. Listen to the 911 call. There is not one word in that 911 call about him hearing his dad say, "Ron, Ron, Ron." Nothing. There's not one word in that 911 call about him saying he heard Emily screaming. Nothing. What's even more important is, remember when Ms. Hollingsworth was testifying? And I asked her about that. And I asked her, in the first time that that story was ever told, was when she told it on the witness stand. And what'd she say? Yeah, the first time that I said this. Now, and my point is simply this. What we do, and is as time goes on, they realize that even though the child was in the house, if he didn't see it, if she says he didn't see it, he didn't hear it, which is now what he says, then how would you know? The other thing that I want you to be reminded of, remember, he says, when I was talking to him, he says, you know, I had my phone and I was playing a game and I was in the bathroom. And then he says, well, yeah, but I turned, because I asked him another question, and he said, well, yeah, I turned the volume down because I was asking him about if he's playing a game. And I don't know, most of you got kids. When kids are playing games, they usually have it up loud. You know, I know mine used to. Of course, they're all grown now, but they used to. And they'd be playing games, the noise would be out of this world. All right? And usually I have to tell them to cut it down. My point is that he's in the bathroom, first of all. Second of all, he admits that he's playing a game. So how much did he really hear? How clear was this? And why wasn't there a mention of it at the 911 call? And why 2 years goes by before Miss Ellingsworth brings it up and even says it happened? All this is new, first time. There was an old lawyer who used to practice in Overy County, and he used to say all the time, if you want to know where the truth is, if you want to know which way the wind's blowing, look at the leaves, not at the root of the tree. Because the root ain't going to move in a gentle breeze. The leaves will. The little things. These little things become important as we go through this process. I want to talk to you now a little bit about the time machine, because that's another problem that the state has in this case. They want you to believe that on the night of your life, that Ron Todd took a gun that he drove to the home of his best friend and his ex-girlfriend, if you will, for lack of a better word, and he murdered them both. Now, first of all, let's look at the timing. The timing that we know for a fact. We know, right? Because we have the video that they put in the evidence which shows it, right? Ron Todd leaves home early evening, I think around 6:30, goes to his friend Glenn's house. At 11:10, he comes back home. He gets in his vehicle and he drives off. Now, you say, well, he had two guns. Let's assume, for the sake of argument, that's true. He had two guns. One of them was, they say, an AR type weapon, which is like a rifle kind of weapon. Well, whatever happened to the rifle? Whatever happened to the rifle? You heard no more talk about the rifle, right? No. And you can't tell me that if you throw a rifle outside on the road that you're not going to be able to find it. No rifle. 2 years later, they say they find a pistol. Let's talk about that for a second. Who does this pistol belong to? You remember I asked the sled agent where he was going to stand. I said, well, did this gun have a serial number on it? Oh, yes, sir, it's got a serial number on it. Well, can't you take that serial number and locate the owner? In fact, when you buy it, you got to register it. So it's registered to somebody. Do you know, folks, that that gun had been registered to Ronnie Todd? They'd have been in here holding it. Oh, here, right here. Let me tell you right now, this Ronnie Todd gun. He's the one that bought that gun. You know why they didn't do that? It ain't his gun. That's why. If it was his gun, folks, believe me, they went to the trouble of finding every text message he's ever done in his life to bring here to show you. You think for 1 second that they could show that that gun belonged to Ron Todd, that they wouldn't have done it? What are they trying to hide? Why not tell you who owns that gun? You think they don't know who owns that gun? You think they don't know? If you believe that, I got the Easter Bunny coming. They know whose gun that is. But they ain't telling you. Why? Why? If we're in search of the truth, why not tell you? Why hide it from you? They say Ron Todd had 2 Springfield guns. How many did they find? Not a single one. Not a single one. And folks, they were at his house within less than an hour after this thing happened. They were at his house. So he couldn't have run anywhere after he got home. Video shows him coming home. 12:18. No question about that. 12:18. Back to the time. What is it? The 911 call came in at 9:13. I'm sorry, 12:13. And soon the kid stayed in the house for another 2 or 3 minutes. There would be no way to drive from the crime scene to Ron Todd's house by 12:18. Impossible. There's no way to do it. Can't do it. Physically, you can't do it. One officer said it take 12 to 13 minutes. It can't be done. Numbers and distance do not lie. Let's talk about something else. Remember, you see, this is what I'm saying about when the state starts to build a case, that we have to be careful and we have to pay attention to what they do, but also what they don't do. Remember, these officers came in here and they testified. Both of them, I think, were sheriff deputies. And I think there might have been one from Horry County. And I was asking them about the Underwood bullets, remember? Because they're saying they tried to pretend that these were some unique bullets that I've been in law enforcement for 28 years. I've never seen this before. Two of them. You know, I asked them, I said, well, do you know this company been in existence for 10, 13, how many ever years? Shipping bullets all over the country? Well, finally, the SLED agent guy was on, right? What did he say? Yeah, they've been selling them bullets since 2003 or 2004. And yeah, there's probably millions of them out there somewhere. You see, it troubles me when the state tries to enhance or embellish the facts, the truth. Because we have to rely on them, because then who do you trust? If they bring in law enforcement officers, they bring in people to tell you lies, who do we trust? When they're going to ask you to find somebody guilty of a crime as serious as murder based on contrived things, yeah, there's some truth in some of the stuff they say. Yeah, he had 2 guns. Yeah, he was at his house at 12, 19, 18, 19, whatever. But then the other pieces troubles me. And I hope they trouble you. Let me say, let's talk for a minute about these text messages. There was an old song that used to say, breaking up so hard to do, right? And it is. If you love somebody, you care about somebody, breaking up is hard. I'm not saying it's right, but it's hard. But that doesn't mean you kill them. And just because I'm mad at you because you broke up with me doesn't mean that I killed you. That's not proof of anything. Yeah, it proves that I'm heartbroken. Proves that I'm upset, yeah. I said some stuff. Because if that were the case, every divorced couple in the world would be killing each other. That's just not how it works. Just because you're mad, just because you're upset, just because a person hurts you, doesn't mean that you killed them. And it doesn't mean that. Does it mean you're upset? Absolutely. Does it mean you're hurt? Absolutely. And if they're trying to prove he was hurt, and if that's all they got to prove, then he's probably guilty of being hurt. But unfortunately, we don't have a statute that says if you get hurt, that's a crime. It's not. Ron Todd is on trial for the most serious crime we know. I want to ask you, I want to discuss with you, I guess is a better word. These two 9mm Springfield guns that they've been talking about. But the problem is, and the SLED agent, I thought did a really good job, Mr. Green. He says, look, there's 71 other guns. That's what he said in his report. He says that there's 71 other guns, different makes and models, or this report was in evidence, but there's 71 other guns that could have fired those very bullets. 71. Not just that. I cannot tell you, he says, that that gun fired either of those shots. I can't tell you that. There are 71 other guns out there, 71 other makes and models that could have fired those shots just as easily. So yeah. So you say in your mind, well, that's suspicious. All these things suspicious. You know, on this very night, we saw him on video, he had 2 guns, so that's suspicious. Maybe he did. Well, and if that is where you are, then your verdict must be not guilty. Because that would mean that the state hadn't proven to your satisfaction beyond a reasonable doubt that he did exactly what they accused him of, as they accused him of it. Things aren't always as they seem, and I'll tell you a little story that I heard a long time ago, and I wish I could take credit for it, but it's not my story. What happened is this mother would always cook a cherry pie, and she had 2 kids and she had a cat. And so the little boy wanted a piece of the cherry pie. After the mom had baked it and set it on the counter, he wanted a piece of the cherry pie. She told him no. She said, wait till your daddy gets home, we don't have supper, you can have some pie after supper. Well, the little boy wasn't going to be outdone. So when mom starts going to the laundry to do the laundry, the little boy sneaks back to the house, he gets as much of the pie as he wants to get, and he eats it right out with his hands. After he finishes eating the pie, he gets the cat. He takes the cat, puts the cat feet in the pie. The cat jumps down off the counter and the cat runs out the house. So when mama comes back, what does mama see? Cat done ate that cherry pie. Well, the cat ain't eat nothing. The little boy ate pie. My point is, things aren't always as they seem. I simply ask you to do nothing more than you are legally obligated to do. That is bring the verdict that speaks the truth. You see, you have no friends to reward. Yeah, you got 2 people who are dead, and that is sad. That is tragic. God knows it is. But the question that's facing you is who did it? There ain't no question about the fact that Emily Richtelli and Mr. Altman were guilty. Nobody's disputing that. You haven't heard one argument against that. Somebody killed them, they're dead. No question about it. The question is who did it. There are no winners or losers in situations like this. Everybody loses. You got 2 dead people, you got 1 man on trial for his life. Doesn't get any more grim than that. I simply ask you for one thing. Because I paid very close attention to you, and you know that throughout this process, both the solicitor and I have made every effort to make sure that we selected 12 people that we all believe would be fair, both to the state of South Carolina, which they're entitled, and to this defendant. And that's the oath that you took. Nobody can ask more of you than that. To simply render a verdict that speaks the truth. And I assure you, a verdict that speaks the truth here is because there is reasonable doubt in this case. Would be not guilty. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.